Welcome to Combat Chatter, a Star Wars The Old Republic podcast, brought to you by RepublicTrooper.com. Combat Chatter covers the latest hot topics and breaking news surrounding Star Wars The Old Republic, BioWare, and the greater Tor community.
Alright, what's up everyone? You are listening to Combat Chatter, the official podcast of RepublicTrooper.com. I am your host, Andy at Republic Trooper, and tonight I'm joined by Dave. Mike and Tim are running late, so they may or may not be on the show. I was going to say, Tim, welcome back. You haven't been on the show for a long time, but you couldn't make it tonight either. So anyways, we'll just move on from that, and we're also joined by our guest tonight. This is somebody that Dave has bumped into personally at some of the gaming conventions out there, things like New York Comic Con. Baylor, the senior producer from Darth Hater, is hanging out with us tonight. So thanks everyone for being on the show. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, troops?
How you doing?
All right, yeah, cool. It's just the three of us tonight, but we got plenty to talk about. So don't worry about that, guys. There's been a lot going on. We're days away from the launch, and we're going to get into a lot of that kind of stuff here in just a few minutes. But first, Baylor, we want to talk more with you about your role with Darth Hater. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do for Darth Hater and that kind of stuff?
Sure, absolutely. I am the senior producer for editorial on Darth Hater. So what I am responsible for is the timely production of all editorial content. So breaking news, features, editorials and op-eds, and any such content that goes up on the front page probably passed through my eyes at one point. One of my major functions is making sure the writers and copy editors we have working for us get to their stuff in a timely fashion, produce quality content, and then make sure we get eyes on the articles before they go up on the front page so that they meet our editorial standards.
Okay, now the next most important question, and this is very appropriate. It melds real life with the Old Republic. We need one of you, so is there a clone chamber where they make more of you? Like the clone troopers? Can we get some clone producers?
Well, Darth Hater's been asking the same thing of me, so I'm not sure that we can find another one of me. But if you put out a posting for an associate producer or something of that, and look for someone with project management skills or someone who's worked in publishing, that'll work. I really don't have either, so I don't know why I work for it, but you know, that's what you need.
I've been picking it up and doing it more. It's more than I've done in the past. I've moved more towards editing and away from as much content writing as I used to do in the past.
Yeah, Dave's learning how to be a project manager with a Republic Trooper. So as we've grown, he's like, dude, I need help. I can't do this all by myself. So we're trying to recruit backup as we speak, actually.
The best part is my very zen personality. It works very well in this entire process.
Yeah, Dave's very calm. Right.
Very, very calm. I'm about as calm as Tony Soprano, also being from Jersey.
Well, the thing about editorial production and being a producer is it's really all about process, making sure you lay out a clear and concise process and making sure people stick to it. You write it, then you copy edit it, then you review it, then you publish it. And if you hit all those steps and make sure that people stick to the timeline that was laid out, it's smooth sailing. The thing is, you got to be able to recognize when a writer won't be able to hit their deadline, or a copy editor might have to spend more time on a specific article because either it's lengthy or that particular writer is usually using a lot of passive voice. You want to get that out, or et cetera, et cetera. So it's all about sticking to your process, sticking to your timeline, and knowing your people.
Yeah, and that's exactly where we're at. Like, kind of what you're saying. I mean, I personally, I've been writing for 20 plus years, and I understand the entire process personally. I'm one of those people who can say, hey, I know how to do this, but maybe I shouldn't be a teacher because I've been learning the skills on how to explain it to our writers. And I'm slowly becoming better once we get to the point where they understand what I'm saying. But I guess I would say knowing the skills and knowing how to teach other the skills are two completely different skills, as it is.
Well, that's why we have two separate people on Darth Hater staff doing those specific things. You said that you're trying to get content out in a timely fashion and you're trying to teach people how to write better. that second part is not my job. That's what Dover does for our staff. He's the managing editor. He is responsible for making sure that style and all of that jazz gets done well, so people become better writers, write in the same sort of voice, so that it sounds like one unified voice from the site. I'm just responsible for making sure people do things on time and making sure people do their jobs.
So essentially what you're saying is you're the whip cracker.
Exactly.
Nice. You mentioned something earlier about breaking news. I know you guys, Darth Hater does a killer job of covering breaking news. Like if something goes up, it's on your guys' website in, dude, I don't know, 5 minutes or less. What can you tell us about that process that you guys have, and how are you kind of clued into what's happening as quick as it happens?
I think I know. I think Sato says, I feel a disturbance in the force.
Yeah, exactly.
Some news is
Stephen
coming
Reed
down
is going to
the
tweet.
pipe.
All
Yes.
right, you guys got me. Sato's a Sith Lord. He sees things and knows them before they happen.
He doesn't even hide that. I mean, when I met him at PAX, he was just like, "Oh yeah, Sith all the way, Sith, evil." I was like, I mean, I didn't get it from his site. I mean, there were subtle clues on Darth Vader here and there if you look for him, but I mean, I still needed to be told straight out.
Yeah, subtle clues. The name is no indicator.
Right. No, but back to the question, about the breaking, like, what is your guys's, like, how do you go about doing that? Just keep it, because you guys, I mean, like I said, you guys really keep on top of like the breaking news, and that's the stuff where we're small. So we were like, we want to do breaking news stuff, but we can only do it here and there. Because do you have full-time people that only monitor news posts and like dev tracker, or is that something that you would be involved with?
Well, as far as the breaking news goes, it's not that we have full-time people dedicated to only doing breaking news and full-time people only doing op-eds, but that's not how it works. We just have all our editorial staff keyed in saying, all right, just keep your eyes on the skies. And if you see something go up on the official site, on Twitter, on Facebook, on their YouTube page, just share it with everyone else, and whoever's available writes it up.
And that's what we're talking about. I mean, we've told our story a few times, but Reader's Digest version again, we're just pushing on 6 months now, so we're one of the new kids on the block. We're very happy with how well we've been received by the community, and we thank all the fans and BioWare for that. Andy and I, from the beginning, we always said, hey, whatever great people come to work with us, that's fine, but we need to be able to do something that we can maintain for the most part on our own. And that came from, in the past, knowing that people come and go on projects. So basically, I don't want to say we prepared for the worst but hoped for the best, because it's not a worst best scenario, but it was more like, we hoped for more but we prepared for less.
Well, as far as breaking news goes, I mean, we don't need the community doesn't need every site doing breaking news.
I agree 100%.
And there are enough sites out there that already do that. I mean, I know that us, Ask a Jedi, and probably Tor Wars.
And Tor Wars, yep.
Right.
All of us
Red
do
Rancor.
breaking news, and Red Rancor, and I'm sure there are other sites who will jump in on it too. Since you guys are Republic Trooper, not to dictate what you guys could or could not do, I would expect you guys to take those patch notes and tear out, this is what's relevant to troopers, and this is how it impacts your specs, this is how it impacts your gearing, this is how it impacts your ability rotations, this is how it impacts how you might view your character.
Yep.
So more analysis of the trooper angle.
That's exactly what we're going to be doing more. I mean, we started getting some numbers out there now that the NDA's dropped, but once all of our writers, once the game launches, I mean, let's face it, in a week and change, that'll be what we're on top of once everybody has access to the hard numbers. Because even when the NDA dropped, it's like, hey, you can talk about beta stuff, but half of your writers and contributors still aren't in the beta, so they can't go and look this stuff up themselves.
Or even worse, they're in the beta and they can't log their high-level characters in because they're bugged.
No.
That was not good.
Dude, that actually hurt us really bad because Dave was like power leveling a trooper and trying to get all this experience so we can get some more stuff on the site, and I think that you never got that character back, did you, dude?
No, thousands of people got locked out, and I don't want to go too much into it because I'm not trying to put a bad shadow on anything that happened in the beta, but I'm actually kind of glad it happened in the beta. I just hope they know what happened so that it can't happen in launch, because that would be horrible for anyone.
Yeah, not being able to log into your main character, that would be tragic and unacceptable.
Yeah, dude, it's already been brutal, but like Dave was saying, we're 8 days away, so I think in another week or so, kind of like to your point, once the game is live, once everybody has access, once people start kind of figuring out and there's patches coming and patch notes coming on a regular basis, obviously that's what we're gonna do, right? Is we're gonna pull content geared towards Trooper and focus on that and editorialize on that and theorycraft on that and all that kind of stuff. Another question I wanted to ask you about Darth Vader. So how long have you been working with them? How did you come about meeting them? Like, how did this whole thing kind of materialize?
Sure. I joined Darth Vader in October of 2010, so last year. So I've been working with them for just over a year. I started reading their site last August when I finally realized, oh, wow, they're making a sequel to Knights of the Old Republic, and it's going to be an MMO. I should really play that game. So I started reading up on the game development over last summer, and I came across Darth Vader because, well, they were really big. They came up high on all the Google searches that I was doing about the game. A lot of the latest news content was coming out of their site, so I said, oh, I'll start watching this site. They seem to have a good handle on what's going on. And I had started my own blog because I intend to play a Jedi Knight at launch. And when I was playing World of Warcraft, I had played a Retribution Paladin / Protection Paladin for a good amount of time. And when I was playing that class, the Ret class, Retribution spec, I found that most other Ret Paladins I ran into in World of Warcraft had no flipping idea what they were doing.
Yeah, they didn't, dude. That was my first class, actually, was Paladin too, so I know what you're talking about.
And I realized that when I first started playing Retribution, I didn't have any idea what I was doing. When I was playing in vanilla, I said, wow, Ret's fun. You get to hit stuff with a big mace. I had no idea what the heck hit was. I didn't know what the difference between spell hit versus melee hit. I didn't know about the hit cap. I was clueless.
See, Andy, I told you 5 years ago we should have created retributionpaladin.com, and you didn't listen to me then.
I know. I'm so sorry.
Well, I found that I realized that I didn't know what I was doing, and I realized that no one else in the community, well, a lot of the community didn't know what they were doing except for the folks that were in high-end guilds. So when Burning Crusade came out and Retribution actually became a spec that was playable, I ended up joining a guild that was in need of one, and I said, all right, I'm going to learn how to do this, and then I'm going to write a blog about it so that people know what they're doing and they have a resource, because I couldn't find a good one. So I started writing boss guides and from a Retribution perspective, and an FAQ for the gearing and specs and all that jazz. And I said, I really enjoyed doing that. I'm going to do that in Tor as well. So I started my blog. It was Force Sensitive, very creative title, because I intended on writing about Jedi Knights, and
Nice.
if I found someone who was a consular player who wanted to write with me, I would have let them come on as well. But then about a month in, when I had realized I don't have anything to write about, this game is at least a few months, if not a year away, and I don't have any details more than what I can get off of Darth Vader and Ask a Jedi and whatever other sites are out there, I saw Darth Vader put up a post saying, we need people. We need writers. We need community moderators. We need producers. We need graphic designers. We need more staff. And I said, there's no way that my little blog will be successful in the face of this if they're successful at what it looks like they're going to do. And Darth Vader looked like it was positioning itself at that point to be a one-stop shop for strategy, for news, for all that. So I said, I'll put in an application. So I applied for a writer, since I had the writing chops from my blog. I applied for a forum moderator because I was at that point moderating Main Tankadin as one of their moderators.
Nice.
And I applied for a producer spot because, well, in my day job, I worked at that point in a project management office in a life insurance company. So I said, let's see what they want. Let's see which one they want me for. And as you're well aware, people who do editorial production are few and far between. So they said, we need you for producer. So they took me on as that.
Nice. That's awesome. Now, fast forward from that time when you set up your application, you eventually ended up like getting to travel to game conventions and things like that for Darth Hader. Is that something that they like kind of task you like, hey, we're going to pick you to go represent us at Comic-Con, or is it just happened to be in like your neck of the woods and you could show up, or how did that kind of stuff come about? Because I know that's where you bumped into Dave was at New York Comic-Con.
Sure. I live in New York City, so East Coast conventions are an easy thing for me. New York Comic-Con, especially since it's in my town. I just have to hop on a subway and I'm at the Javits Center. I also went to PAX East as a part of the Darth Hader staff because it's in Boston. Boston's not too hard for me to get to. As far as conventions go, we just send who can get there, and we grab as many tickets, media passes as we can, and send as many people who can afford to go.
Yeah, we were pretty much hitting the first couple shows while we were still in our early stages. So I just hit up PAX, and then I hit up New York Comic-Con, and it's been said time and again, but it literally is the backbone. The community in this game is excellent. The players, the BioWare community team, and people I've met at each convention, I've kept in touch with, and everyone's just, they're energetic and they're positive. And I really haven't seen a gaming community since EverQuest. And even then, this surpasses that. It might be because of technology. It's a little bit easier to connect with people now, but you feel really plugged in once you start getting into the community around the Old Republic.
And I hear you, Dave. When I've come away from both conventions that I went to with contacts that I've kept in touch with. For example, when I went to PAX East, I ended up talking for a while with a guy from, I'm forgetting which guild it was, but I ended up keeping in touch with him after a while, and he's now one of our forum moderators on Darth Hader. If you ever see him on our forums, it's Disinvolto. I met him at PAX East. We got to talking. I ended up talking with him on the show floor for about an hour at the end of the Sunday, and we kept talking after the con, and he ended up joining our staff. And then at New York Comic Con, I met you as well as a few other people from a few of the other fan sites that I sometimes talk to. Both conventions I run into Kathy and Roxanne from Corellian Run, and I chat with them on Twitter every once in a while. Sorry, I hit my mute button.
Do you mean Kathy from BioWare?
Yeah, she just got a job at BioWare, dude.
Yeah,
excuse me, Kathy, the off-site contract community coordinator at BioWare.
Right. I know. Dave told me about that today. I was like, that's awesome.
Congrats, Kathy. You rock.
Dave wants a job, by the way, Kathy, if you're listening.
I make awesome coffee remotely, even. So.
Yeah.
Coffee by VoIP.
Yeah, there you go.
Do I need less reasons to leave the house? There's already so few. Josh, now I know you're going to be part of the Republic, like you told me when we first met at Comic-Con, and we spoke in that 2-hour line waiting to get into one of the BioWare panels. And you've mentioned it again here. Does that set you apart? I mean, how many people on the Darth Hader staff are actually not going Sith?
That actually does set me apart from the rest of the Darth Hader staff. Darth Hader will have a Sith guild on a PvP PST server at some point.
Nice.
Because they're all crazy raiders and want to kill people. I'm East Coast based. I don't want to play on a Pacific server because I'd rather have a good ping, and I'd rather play with people in my time zone. And I'm going to roll on a PvE server because, well, I don't want to get to Tatooine and get my ass ganked every 5 minutes. And
Right.
I apologize if you guys have to bleep that.
Oh, no, that's totally cool, dude.
So I have started my own guild. I know that a good portion of the editorial staff and core team for Darth Hader will be playing on the PvP PST server, wherever they end up. I don't even know where they're going or what the guild will be called. They're keeping it under wraps. But as far as I go, it's going to be me, and I've got 6 other people currently from my personal contacts and the Hader staff that will be rolling on a PvE EST server. We're in a guild that we called Mito's Arrows. And it's a really nerdy name because we drew on Star Wars lore.
Nice.
And we're going to be targeting 8-man raids, 8-man operations, excuse me. Got to use their terminology. And it's just going to be real small, real tight-knit, pretty casual raid schedule, maybe 2 nights a week tops. and I know that we've got me, and then I think it's 3 other people from Hater editorial staff, and then well, maybe it's 4 other people from editorial staff, and then 2 guys that are friends of friends.
So that's actually not too bad. I mean, it doesn't make you a complete outsider. I mean, if there's like 5 people going Republic, that gives the DH team a pretty good minority. You know,
the Republic has a voice on DarthHater.com.
representing the Republic side. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, Darth Hater is not completely Sith. There are pockets of Republic resistance, but yeah, the main portion of the staff. I mean, we've got a staff of probably close to 20, 25, maybe even 30 if I counted it up. So we're a pittance.
That's funny.
whenever I read Darth Hater, you know, everybody thinks Darth Hater's evil, but I've told Andy they're still good in that website. I felt it.
Oh,
I did.
Yeah, exactly. They're your father, Dave.
Well, they've been around longer than we have, so I don't know what to say to that. I mean, I want a DNA test for proof, but I'm not going to say it's impossible.
No, we're doing this. We're doing a similar thing. Dave's a GM in our guild, and we try to keep it under wraps too, because we want our guild and our guild members to not be get extra. However it goes, you just want to keep the two projects separate, because they're almost projects in and of their own. But we're also doing the same thing too. We're going PvE because we want to focus on raiding. We want people to be able to level without having to worry about being ganked and all that kind of stuff. And originally, I actually wanted to play Sith on a PvP server, but Dave twisted my arm. So
no, I did not. That's a lie.
Yo, please.
Other friends could see this is. And he is going dark side, even though he's Republic.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
That's proof. He will lie to cover his ass
and kill the kids, dude. I kill the kids every chance I get.
Well, you both are playing troopers, right?
No, he'll be a Jedi Knight actually.
Actually, well, yeah, I know it's secret. I know. No, my main is going to be a Jedi Knight Sentinel, but I will have a trooper alt going commando, which is cool as hell. And in the beta, I actually played commando pretty much exclusively, just for the website and all that stuff. And I have to say, I was really torn when it was done, because I loved it. Like, I had so much fun with that class, but I had already kind of committed to the guild, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to play. So I will actually be playing a Jedi Knight as my main, which is cool. I'm really looking forward to it. But I think Dave's going to try and do dual troopers, aren't you?
A Vanguard will be my main, but yeah, I will later down the line. I will get a commando up there too, because I gotta walk the walk if I talk the talk.
Well, you have to go commando. It's very airy and breezy.
Well, about that. The best thing I like about Andy is he's going Sentinel, so he'll be dual wield. So when I'm landing my aircraft, he'll have those 2 glow rods to bring me in safely.
Yeah, exactly. Park to the left.
But Andy, I had much the same problem that you had when I played in beta. First thing I rolled was a Knight because I wanted to play Knight, but I figured I'm going to play Guardian at launch, so I'm going to play Sentinel for beta, and I'm going to play light side at launch, so let me make all the dark side choices to see what I'm missing. And I played that for a bit, and then I got locked out of that server for a queue, so I said, I don't want to wait, I'm going to roll something else. So I ended up rolling a trooper up on a different server, and my God, I had so much fun.
It is a lot of fun. It is the only real beef I have about Trooper is compared to all the other classes, the way we look when we start. Like, all the other troopers are like geared out in trooper gear, and we're like in pants and a t-shirt essentially. And it's like you don't really look like a trooper until maybe, I don't know, like 15 or 20. But it is a ton of fun to play. You know what though? Truthfully, trying not to be biased, I'm not like, yeah, but we're the coolest. I truthfully think that troopers and bounty hunters with their armor, at the end, it's worth the price, because a short time you look ghetto, but at the end, dude, the trooper and the bounty hunter are the best looking classes. The armor is magnificent, especially the high end armor. Yeah, Dave hooked me up with he had like a random drop, and it was like a blue like dark side level 3 trooper item or something like that, and we put it on, and our whole vent channel like erupted. They were like, "Oh my God, you got to see this." It was like all dark red with like spikes, and I was like, "Yeah, evil trooper, dude. I look sick." Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of the high end armor. Well, just look at the movie they put out, the trooper versus the the Choose Your Side. Yeah, the trooper versus the Sith Inquisitor, wasn't it? Because there's a couple scenes we actually I actually pulled Andy pulled a
a still out of that video, and I have it as my desktop. There's a scene where there's like 6 troopers in all different armor, and it looks awesome. I mean, there's some of the standard, like, white and orange or white and blue, but then, I mean, it goes all the way up to high end, and you can see a lot of the trooper armor in that video.
I'll have to go rewatch some of those Choose Your Sides videos. I didn't even think to look at the armor. You can see that I'm not the one who does the dissections for our site.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's cool. But yeah, I was just gonna say, we're gonna kind of move on to like actual Star Wars topics now, and away from Darth Vader specific. But thanks so much for hanging out. We're gonna kind of move into the next segment here. We're totally glad that you joined us on the show. And if you are a Star Wars: The Old Republic fan and you have not heard of DarthHater.com, I do not know where you have been. But everybody needs to go check out DarthHater.com. Those guys are super cool. Their website is awesome. There's tons of information, tons of forums. They now have a game database and all that kind of stuff. So check out DarthHater.com. And, Baylor might say hi to you when you're there too. But Dave, let's move on to the mess hall. We had a mess hall this last week. And why don't you tell everybody what was going on with that?
Yeah, in last week's mess hall, which was our second ever, we talked about the beta weekend impressions that everyone who got a chance to actually get into beta at this point had, and what they thought of the beta. It was just a general good, bad, great, horrible.
From the Thanksgiving weekend, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, the greatest majority of people got in over that weekend, but anyone who'd gotten into the beta was welcome to put their beta impressions forward. Since the NDA was lifted, the votes were actually kind of shocking. I mean, I expected good replies, but I thought there might be one or two okays or fairs. We got 0 of anything below exceptional. We got 41%. The beta was exceptional. Yes, 41% the beta was exceptional. The game will go down as one of history's greatest titles. And 59% went with the beta was very good. Almost everything I encountered was fun and well presented. So people, at least the readers of our site, they were blown away by the beta. And considering there were some bumps in the road, once they have that stuff ironed out, I think the game has a very bright future as long as they take care of business in the same manner post-launch as they have pre-launch.
That's pretty interesting because, and Baylor, I don't know, how long have you been in beta, or were you did you only get a weekend pass?
Well, I was in general game testing, but for not very long. I got a general testing invite in early mid-November, but I really have the opportunity to use it that much because I've been so busy on the side.
Right.
I didn't even get to log in during the Thanksgiving beta blitz.
Yeah, that's funny because neither did I. I'm the same, except I got my general test invite, I think it was like mid-September. But even then, by the time the beta weekends came around, like lots of people were in, I was like, I can't do it on this weekend. I'm busy. But I thought that the build they had for the Thanksgiving weekend, I'm actually surprised by those poll results. I thought it was actually way more buggy and they had way more problems than the previous build. And I'm kind of surprised that nobody was like, it was okay, or I hit this problem. Because like we were kind of talking earlier, Dave had a character that was locked out and he couldn't log in ever. He's never gotten it back, and now the beta's closed, so that character was gone. And there was just a lot of things like that. I mean, of course, those things are going to happen, and obviously they opened the floodgates to. I think it was somebody said somewhere today it was like 750,000 players that weekend. But I'm actually surprised that people voted it that high. I'm also super stoked that they voted it that high because, as a Star Wars fan and an MMO fan, I want the game to have a thriving community and a long life. But that's pretty interesting that people enjoyed it as much as they did.
Well, Andy, I don't think they opened it to 725,000. Like they said, everyone who'd signed up, they'd opened it to 2 million testers. 725,000 actually played that weekend.
That's true. That's a good point. They said something else too. They said that of the 725,000 that it was, or 750, that they averaged 12 hours of playtime over the weekend. Like each account averaged about 12 hours of playtime. And then they did the math and they said it equated to 9,000 years of real life time.
Wow, that's crazy. These people almost sound like MMO gamers.
Yeah, I know. I actually thought it would have been more, right? Because when you have like a 3-day pass, you think it's like, all right, dude, I'm booking Saturday off. I'm up at 8 a.m. and I'm in bed at 4.
Well, that's the average. Think about the people that were busy and went, I'm only going to get 2 hours on this day, and that's all I got. I wish I got more. They had to be offset by the people who put in 30 hours.
That's true.
some people in our guild who got into their 40s over the 4-day weekend, so they put in a few hours.
I'm actually not surprised that you guys got the response you did on your poll. The people who are following the game pre-launch are the people who are really, really excited about it. And the people who got invites to the beta weekend and actually utilize them are the ones who really, really want to play it. So they're going in with a preconceived notion of, I've been waiting for this game for forever. I want my hands on it. And you give them that little taste and they're really excited. So they want to say, yeah, it's awesome. So I'm not really all that surprised by the poll results, to be honest.
I guess that's true. That's a good point. For especially for people who, that was their only window into the beta, right? It was like those 3 or 4 days. They're going to stop. I know when I got my general game test invite, it was like, hey, sorry, weekend plans. Like, I've got stuff to do. And then I played all weekend and leveled a bunch of characters to about 20 and just to kind of like check out as much as I could. But that's true. I guess if I would have had like a 3 or 4 day window, it's like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. The one thing I did notice though is there were some pretty major launch bugs, and up until that, and I don't know how many people were in the general test. They said in the article I read this morning that over the life of beta, 2 million testers played. So there was a lot of people in the general test. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, I had the experience of having been in the game already, so I could see with each build, what the actual changes were, how they modified this system versus that system, and it gave you a little bit more perspective on, oh man, I like the item modification system better in the previous build, as opposed to, I only have like a 3 or 4 day window into the game. So I guess that does make sense.
Yeah, I hope people remember, and I did a piece on it a couple months ago on RT. About hype and people getting too hyped up. That can still happen even with a great product, because you expect something to be El Dorado. No matter how great this game is, remember, okay, nothing is perfect. So guys, I hope there's a minimum, but when a game launches, especially a game of this size, there may be some bumps in the road. Let's hope that they're ironed out as fast as possible and they're of minimum impact. But just remember to try to be patient.
Well, we've actually talked about that on the show before, because obviously the big comparison it's going to be compared to is WoW, because that's where the most players are. But people are comparing this game to WoW in its current state right now, not WoW when it launched. And anybody that was around WoW on like vanilla WoW on launch day, dude, that was not... That was a good 2 or 3 weeks of major, I can't log in, server rebooting every 10 minutes. Yada, yada, yada. It took them a while to really work out the kinks. I do not foresee that with this game. I just don't. But
and the numbers,
there might be queue times, but
the numbers aren't even the same. Okay, WoW exploded. It did. But those first couple weeks when things were really bad and when the major problem was them updating their databases so that you could actually loot without, standing over a corpse for 3 minutes at a time.
Right.
There were a couple 100,000. There were like 200,000 people at launch. There weren't like 2 to 3 million. So, I mean, Blizzard had this problem. Blizzard had this problem at WoW's launch with a tenth or maybe less of what we're going to see in the Old Republic's player base at the start. So that's another thing to remember.
No, that's true. That's a good point. And, speaking of WoW, that kind of somewhat brings us to our next topic of discussion, which is, before WoW, I played Star Wars Galaxies, and one of our new writers, Richard Long, just wrote a piece about the impact of Star Wars Galaxies on Star Wars The Old Republic. It got a great reaction from the community. There was lots of comments. There was lots of feedback. A lot of people seem torn. A lot of people seem to say there's no way you can compare the two. The only similarities are that they're Star Wars, and other people seem to say otherwise. I'm kind of one of the otherwise people. I think that BioWare did their research and they looked into a lot of the good things that Star Wars Galaxies did. And as messed up as that game was, I mean, when I played it, I loved it. For all its bugs and all its brokenness, I still thought it was really cool. And I think it did some pretty innovative things for the MMO genre at the time. And that's really the thing that I think I've seen BioWare kind of do with TOR, is they've really looked at other major games out there, like WoW or even EverQuest and Age of Conan and all of this kind of stuff. And they've they've gone, okay, this is a good system. We like how it works. Now we want to put like a BioWare spin on it, or this is the idea of this system is good, but we're not even going to use it because the way it was implemented in X game doesn't work right. But I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? Do you think that Star Wars Galaxies would have had or does have any influence on TOR as it is today?
I'm gonna say, and at the risk of making a couple people mad, I'm gonna say anyone who thinks that something that came before in a genre has no impact whatsoever on the future is being a little naive. Every title in a game genre has impact on future games in that genre, whether good, bad, or indifferent. And that goes across everything. FPSs have influenced every other FPS. Tribes Ascend, and I'm gonna do a little bit of product advertisement for
Battlefield
Tribes
3 is
here.
better.
Well, if you drink juice boxes, it is. I agree.
Call of Duty.
But I couldn't wait for the Tribes franchise to be resurrected. But you actually see it on the Tribes Ascend servers. You see people talking about like, hey, this is like Halo. A lot of the younger players don't realize Tribes came before Halo. Hence, if there's anything similar in Halo, it was influenced by Tribes. That happens in every genre. And it's good and bad influences. People see games that came out as flops. In some ways, things that fail in a genre are more telling than things that are successful. It's easy to go, okay, that works, that works. If we pick that up, we might be of middling success, but people will say we just completely copied. The best games are the ones that incorporate as much that's come before them that's great about the genre, remove as much about the genre that has failed, and add their own innovations to further the genre.
Right.
Those three things in conjunction are what make a great game.
What do you think, Baylor? Did you even were you even a Star Wars Galaxies player?
I didn't play Star Wars Galaxies, but I was tempted. It could have been my first MMO because I know that it was intriguing, but at that point I didn't really have the mindset that I wanted to pay a subscription fee to play games, so I passed on that. But then my girlfriend got me into WoW, and here I am.
Nice.
Go ahead, Dave.
That's funny. I was just going to say something about your subscription. Some people are claiming with the free-to-play movement becoming so large that it's going to hurt Star Wars's bottom line. I suppose
I don't
that's
think
true.
so one bit.
Well, I suppose that's true to a very small point, but yeah, for the most part, if something is good enough, $15 a month, I mean, there are people out there that are strapped. I completely understand that. But $15 a month is a lot of entertainment when you're talking about a good MMO. And when you're talking about getting something you can't get in other MMOs, namely grade A voice acting across the board, and just, it might not be a cutting edge graphics engine, but the graphics and the sound in the game they're great. For an MMO, they're compelling, they're exciting. You're getting your $15 worth. It's not like you're paying $15 for a game that is the equivalent of a free-to-play title. You're paying $15 for a game that's above most free-to-plays. And there are some great free-to-plays out there. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy several of them myself, but there is a difference.
And I'd look at it this way at this point in my life. I pay more than that for a gym membership, and I probably use the gym membership less than I'll play this game.
Hands down, I'm in the same boat, dude. Stupid 24-hour fitness.
Well, now that the game's coming out, you guys will probably use the gym membership almost not at all.
I know. My girlfriend's going to kill me.
I'm going to make a point that I still go. I swear I will get my money's worth.
Yeah, Josh will get in there. He'll be like, all right, 10 of these. I can lift weights while running on the treadmill, right?
That's funny. Remember back in the WoW days when, there was some guy who, he forced a rule on himself when he played WoW. He hooked his keyboard up to a in-place exercise bike. And when he wanted to play WoW, he had to sit on the bike and pedal. And he made some blog and he followed himself over 6 months of playing WoW. And he was it was really cool. First, he lost 75 pounds because whenever he would play WoW, he would actually exercise, and B, he was it forced him to only have to do 2 or 3 hour increments because his legs couldn't take it anymore.
That's actually almost
smart.
Yeah, that's a smart idea. I don't think I would implement that at this point in my life, but I won't say that it's not a really woody witty way to combine exercise and gaming.
You know, if for those of you out there that did play Star Wars Galaxies, I agree with Dave. You know, if something that came before the other, especially the fact that Star Wars Galaxies was the first ever Star Wars MMO. Star Wars The Old Republic is going to be the second ever Star Wars MMO. There is no way you cannot make comparisons against the two, even though that they were almost like, 10 years apart from each other. Definitely check out Rich's piece on our site. It was called Star Wars Galaxies Impact on Star Wars The Old Republic. He has a lot of good points.
Well, to your original question of how did Star Wars Galaxies really impact the Old Republic, or how could it have?
Right.
I'm on board with you guys that something that comes before in the genre has to have some sort of ripple effect on what comes after. And I think that there are, from my point of view as an outsider who has not played Star Wars Galaxies and I've watched the Old Republic's development, I feel like there are two main points that Galaxies had a real and tangible effect on the Old Republic. One is the nature of the game itself, story-driven instead of sandbox, and two is the timeline where they place the game in the
absolutely
Star Wars, story.
Right.
I mean, when you're dealing with, I'll deal with the second one first. When you're dealing with a game like Star Wars Galaxies, which is set in the era of the original trilogy, that is a really known and mapped out time period within the Star Wars universe. So you're really restricted as to what sort of stories you can tell. You know that after this point in the time period that you're in, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. So you really can't go off the map. As far as the timeline goes, you're really restricted as to what you can say or do because of the time period. When they're talking about the Old Republic, you're back way before the trilogy, and it's a dead spot in the Star Wars universe. There hasn't been a lot written in that particular era. So they had a lot more leeway with what they could have done, and there are a lot more Jedi and Sith in that time period. So it's not like in Star Wars Galaxies, oh, there's a Jedi. I mean,
right.
I really didn't play, so I don't have a handle on it, but I was made to think that in the early days of Star Wars Galaxies, there were very, very few Jedi, and it was sort of an RNG factor, who could be them and whether they could train it up. And then after a while, they opened it up to anyone can do it, but
that's when the game started to fall apart. Right. That's when the game started to fall apart. The fans, I mean, especially too, I mean, you want to talk like, nerd levels, dude. You're Star Wars fans, like we're as nerdy as they get, you know what I mean? And it's like, that didn't happen at this year, in this hour, in this time, and this book said otherwise, and their hands were tied behind their back in terms of longevity of story, because I believe the setting was supposed to be between the Star Wars A New Hope, which was the first movie released, and Empire Strikes Back. I believe that was where the timeline was for SWG.
Yeah,
but with TOR, like you said, I mean, essentially now, I mean, the lore goes back, I guess, tens of thousands of years, and I believe, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the TOR timeline is either 1,000 years or like 3,000 years before Yoda.
3,600 years.
3,600 years.
And change.
So and there's not a whole lot of story in there, so they can kind of like make the lore up now as they go. I mean, there's these big like milestones that are talked about, but it was not like the lifespan of like a person, right? Like we know Luke Skywalker from age 15 to like 20, became Luke Skywalker, the badass Jedi guy or whatever. They have a much wider expansive time to really just be creative and actually fill in the blanks in that history, I guess.
And they can't be attacked on their forums by rabid Star Wars fans saying that didn't happen.
Right.
That doesn't fit with the canon.
Right. Exactly.
Well, they can, but it'll happen much less often with less credibility. But everything you guys are talking about right now, Rich actually went into almost exact detail on those things. He went into, I believe he called the time that BioWare went back to as more virginal, as it was much harder to suspend disbelief with the Jedi in Star Wars Galaxies. And, in some ways, you have to wonder how forward-looking the doctors at BioWare were when they made the original Knights of the Old Republic, because they put themselves in a place that really was almost a no-brainer. It was actually surprising LucasArts or someone working with LucasArts hadn't hit them up for that a long time ago. People wanted the freedom to, you know, to be the force wielders.
Well, that's a good point.
They wanted it to fit in a game. They wanted, and BioWare seems to make a lot of choices that are just common sense that you go, hey, that's a great choice. I'm surprised. I'm surprised it took this long for anyone to think of it. But
well, I was gonna say that's a good point because you never know. Maybe that timeline or that era of time, maybe that was suggested to them by LucasArts. Because you got to remember, I mean, LucasArts is a business too. They want to keep thriving current Star Wars fans still as rabid as ever, and they want to get a whole new generation of them into it. That's why they did the prequel movies, and now there's rumors that there's going to be another set of 3 movies coming and maybe a TV show in the next few years. And they're probably like, hey, if you guys want to start a video game franchise around this, this would be the best area in the lore to start it, because it literally gives you thousands of years of history that isn't exactly like well documented, and you can lifespan that for however long in terms of like a video game RP or IP. You know what I mean?
And I know that the Jedi issue is, if the subscription fee didn't scare me off from Galaxies, the fact that I couldn't roll a Jedi would have, because all I've ever wanted was to be able to play a Jedi Knight in a video game.
Dude, I'm so with you, man. I
played Jedi Knight 2. I played Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, played Jedi Outcast, Jedi Academy, every single game in that line. I played Knights of the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic 2, just so that I could hold a lightsaber and force push someone. That's all I wanted.
Awesome.
So Galaxies, if I couldn't play a Jedi, I wouldn't have been that fun for me. I mean, Han Solo is cool, but lightsabers.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. But I don't want to drag this one out for too long. I want to move on to the next topic, which I actually forgot to mention earlier. The Jedi Consular has been getting a lot of love in the last few Friday updates. There was a Jedi Consular progression video, and then this most recent Friday update was the Choose Your Side. It was the Imperial Agent versus the Jedi Consular. I don't know if either of you guys had a chance to see those, but in terms of the progression video, I actually thought that was the wimpiest one so far. I did not like the high-level gear that the Jedi Consular had, like their headdress and stuff like that. I thought it looked cheesy. I don't know. What did you guys think about that?
If you actually watch a lot of the newer Star Wars content going back to the second trilogy, even the Clone Wars cartoon, you'll see a lot of the fashions for women from Naboo, like Amidala and such. You'll see the fashions they're very, very traditional and elegant to the point of almost
ornate.
Yeah, ornate to the point of
that's true.
Almost being, surreal, like they are. So while you can like or dislike the style, I actually think they're staying very true to what is already out there in the Star Wars universe. And that's one of the very fine lines, because they do have a place where they can write their own story with a broad brush, but at the same time, they want to make it, as they've said several times, they want to make it recognizable as Star Wars. And I think they're doing that balance very, very well. They're walking that line with fine precision.
And the Consular, if you read the backstory on that character, it's supposed to be a diplomat, an ambassador, someone who frequents meeting halls just as much as they frequent the battlefield. So it makes sense to me that the armor doesn't look like it's battle ready.
Oh, that's a good point. I actually didn't know that. That's a good point.
Hey, good relations with the Wookiees.
Right.
Have I. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
No, seriously. And, we're going to nerd out because, this is our nerd cred here.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
If you watch the movies and go back, Yoda was the premier kick-ass guy, and he was the Jedi who wanted to fight last. I mean, he really was. I mean, even the other Jedi that weren't hot-tempered, they would pull their lightsaber before Yoda would. Yoda, he was the quintessential consular. He was peaceful until there's absolutely no choice, and then when there's no choice, open a can of green whoop ass.
And then when he was doing that, he would do this.
Wow, Andy. Does your medical insurance cover psychiatric
care?
I'm
in my short bus helmet right now, so you gotta bear with me.
Right now, Josh is like, I will never be on this show
Yeah,
again,
I know.
ever.
I'm just thinking to myself, wow, they broke out the soundboard.
Yeah, I know.
I'm surprised it took them this long.
Normally I do it earlier. Dave always yells at me, so I tried to save it because we're towards the end. But
Well, Dave or Andy always likes to attack Dave with
that one. Anyways, I thought I don't know. I guess that makes sense. I thought the consular looked kind of cheesy, but that is a good point. I didn't think about that aspect of it. But what did you guys think of the Imperial Agent versus the consular video? I actually thought that was really cool. From what I've read, a lot of people did not want to play Imperial Agent. They had like no interest, but they tried it out in the beta, and now they're like addicted. They're like, it's the coolest class. They love it. They love the storyline. And I personally haven't played it yet, so watching the video, I got to see a lot more of the game mechanics around it and things like that. And it looked pretty cool. I thought it was pretty good.
I haven't had the opportunity to play the agent, but I do know that from what I've heard of the story, you get to be super spy behind enemy lines, seducing everybody, kill, death, maim. It sounds like a whole lot of fun, and I'm not surprised that it's being featured at this point because it's been so low on the popularity scale based on some of the polls that a few of the sites out there have done and some of the forum polls that they've had on the official site. It looks like the non-Force users are going to be a little bit more low pop. So featuring one of the classes and putting that's a non-Force user and putting them in the limelight before launch makes sense to me, so that you can try to raise the population, balance the class distribution a little bit if you can.
Well, and on top of that too, not only that, but they featured them in a video fighting against a Forced user, which I thought was kind of cool.
Got to make sure that they know you can still kill them, and everything that in that video, the choose your side Imperial Agent versus Jedi Consular, I mean, they made their case for each side, but in my opinion, and I don't know what everyone else thinks, but from what I saw in that video, the agent was going to kick the consular's ass.
Dude,
and
I know. I thought so too, man. There was that one scene where you could see the initial fight going on, and the consular's health just dropped to like 30%, and you know the guy playing the agent for the video totally backed off.
Dude, this has to be an even fight. Give me a fighting chance.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't mess up the video, man.
I don't know. In part of that video too, you see the agent unload, because that's what, as they go through the different segments, it's pretty much the agent unloading at range while the consular gets up to him. I mean, the video later on in the second half, like the agent unloads on the consular and he just sits there and heals himself and slowly moves through it until he can break everything. Just kind of like walking towards him, throwing heals up like, yeah, I'm walking towards you. Yeah, you're not going to stop me. And when he gets to him, he just kind of starts kicking the agent's ass.
Yeah,
in my opinion, I think that they showed sniper versus sage, to be specific. I think that it would have been a lot more even fight on the video if it was sniper versus shadow, because the shadow could stealth up, get inside the agent's max range, and get up close, and then start kicking his ass at that point. The sage, you got to be open and overt and walk right up to the snipers. Yeah. You have to somehow get inside the sniper's reach, and that's not always easy.
That's a good point that you bring it up, and I think a lot of people, even maybe people who played in the beta weekend, I don't think people necessarily realize is there's not 4 classes in the game. There's 8 classes on each side, because really once you choose your advanced class, that is your class. Like we were talking on, I think it was even on the podcast a few months ago, or one of our earlier episodes. After level 10, you're not, if you mouse over someone, it doesn't say trooper, it says Vanguard or Commando, because the differences in the play style and their mechanics and all of that really define how they act in the game. And it's the same thing. The difference between a consular sage versus consular shadow, completely different. A shadow consular would have a much greater chance of taking on a sniper. I agree.
There's something that still gets asked again and again, and that is, hey, how can anybody stand up against Jedi? And for the people who aren't as avid about following it as some of us are, BioWare has said in the past a few times that you're not an average Joe when you're not a Force user. You are Han Solo. You are Jango Fett, and we see you see Jango Fett stand toe to toe with against Obi-Wan. I mean, they go back and forth. You have no idea who would have won that fight before it was ended. It can be done, and players just need to remember that you're not a stormtrooper. You're like the best of the best of the best stormtrooper.
It's troopers, yeah, what, special forces or whatever it was for the, I forget, Havoc Squad, special forces.
Havoc Squad.
Spec forces, yeah.
And we won't go any more into that. It's very cool. You are not an average trooper. We'll tell you that much. And it's made plain very early on. You won't have to wait like 20 hours to find out, who you are. You're going to know in the first hour or two.
We kind of touched on this earlier, but we are 8 days from the start of early game access. I know, I'm pretty sure everyone here pre-ordered. What are your guys' expectations as we move into launch week? Like, what are you really looking forward to? Just the 15th, or what kind of things are going on? What kind of things do you have scheduled?
This is the first time that I've participated in the launch of an MMO. I joined World of Warcraft after it had been out for several months. I started playing Guild Wars, if you can call that an MMO, after it had been out for a little bit. And I've never really been in on the first wave, so I don't know what to expect.
A lot of server downtime.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting queues, server crashes, the whole 9 yards, which is why I'm a little bit on the fence about whether I want to take off any time from work at this point. I mean, I have a few vacation days saved up, and we're approaching the end of the year, so I don't know if it's worth it to burn them to play, because I'm probably not going to be able to get on the server.
Yeah, we talked about this too.
Schedule New Year's week.
That's what I was going to say is Star Wars I started playing Galaxies, and I think it was 2003. So I've been playing MMOs. I've been through that launch, the WoW launch, the launch of Age of Conan, like on and on and on. It's the first 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, there's just issues. Anyways, I do believe that this game will have a much smoother launch because of just technology and how long it's been in development and all of that kind of stuff. But I know for myself personally, I am not taking any time off, just because you take those couple days, and then if you for some reason you can't play, you're just like, oh man, I wasted my PTO. So I'll probably take some time off maybe in January and try and get a week of game time in for myself.
You guys know there's the safer way to do it. There's the log in early in the morning, see if the server's up and you can get on, and if it's smooth, and then pick up the phone and go, boss.
Yeah, the call in sick.
Killing me. I'm not gonna be able to make it in today.
And Dave, this is why you don't have a job, dude.
Andy, die in a fire.
Yeah, sorry.
See, I work in human resources, so I have a real problem with abusing my sick time.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Well, it's not abusing. Okay, then be straight out. Hey, boss. Yeah, I'm sick of being there with you. No, I'm just joking. These were obviously all jokes, guys. God.
No, I know, Dave. You're taking some time off, aren't you, for the launch?
Yeah, Andy. As a matter of fact, I won't be taking any calls or email from you for several days, just to let you know.
Dude, that's awesome. I'm cracking up. Anyways, yeah, we're 8 days away from launch, so yeah, we ran a little bit long tonight, so we're gonna try and wrap this up because the music is starting to fade in the background. So guys, any final thoughts here before we close out the show?
Yeah, well, it was great to have Baylor here. I will be in touch. We're definitely going to talk to you, in and out of game after this, and who knows, maybe I'll sneak onto your server on the nights I don't want to put up with Andy and the rest of my guild and play with your small Republic guild.
Well, Dave, Andy, thank you very much for having me on. I don't get to do this very often. I'm not part of our the Darth Hater podcast crew, so I don't really speak over the interwebs that much. But I really appreciate you guys having me on the show. And definitely, Dave, you're more than welcome to come run a few flashpoints with us and have a good time. And you'll definitely have to let me know where you guys end up so I can come bug you. As far as my final thoughts, great site you've got at Republic Trooper. I'm really excited about the Trooper class. It's probably going to be my second class that I play after my Jedi Guardian.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you so much for being on the show. I know we've been wanting to get you on for a while now since Dave met you at New York Comic Con. So we will definitely have you back. We're a week away from early game launch, so I'm sure we'll be able to, if not play together, at least attempt to kill each other in the game once we're live. But That's it, everybody. That is it for episode 6 of Combat Chatter. I want to thank Dave and Baylor for hanging out. Mike and Tim, we miss you guys. You guys got to come back soon. Everybody, check out darthhater.com. Great website, probably the leading website out there when it comes to TOR, news, editorial database, things like that. Everybody else out there that was listening to the show tonight, we really appreciate it. As always, thanks for your feedback and comments. And be sure to check us out, republictrooper.com, and also check out Baylor and the Hater crew at darthhater.com. Until next time, you've been listening to Combat Chatter, the official podcast of republictrooper.com. We are out of here. Peace.
Later, troops.
You've been listening to Combat Chatter, brought to you by republictrooper.com. Join the community at www.republictrooper.com, on Facebook at facebook.com/republictrooper, or on Twitter @republictrooper. Thanks for listening. Tune in next time.
Andy, I'm getting a lot of. It sounds like you're a little bit garbled on mine.
Yeah, Andy, you're getting your robot voice again.
Oh, man. Fucking Skype. Okay.
Did we lose everybody?
No, we just that just wasn't funny. I do believe that this will be a much smoother launch just because of, totally tongue-tied there and I brain farted.
If you're gonna do that, you really need edit this part out.
That's totally okay, dude. Blooper reel.